Welcome to Primetime News on TV1. I'm Thiruni Karunaratne. Here are tonight's top stories.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Two Iranian soldiers killed in Israeli attacks. Iran says airstrikes caused limited damage. Alpitiya Pradesh Sabha election concludes peacefully. Results expected before midnight. Official election notice distribution for general election to begin tomorrow. Security situation in Sri Lanka is stable. Public Security Minister assures public.
ආරක්ෂක තත්ත්වය ඉතාම ශක්තිමත්ව තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම සංචාරකයන්ටත් නිදහසේ සංචාරක කටයුතු කරන්න පුළුවන් තත්ත්වයක් අපි දැන් ඇති කරලා තියෙනවා.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
On to your top story this evening. Tensions in the Middle East escalated overnight as Israel launched precise strikes on military targets in Iran, marking a significant increase in hostilities between the two nations. The Israel Defense Forces completed 3 waves of strikes early this morning, citing months of ongoing attacks from Iran and its allies as the catalyst for this military action. Iran's military says 2 soldiers were killed in Israeli strikes that targeted military bases. Iran's foreign ministry has strongly condemned what it called, quote, the Zionist regime's aggressive actions against several military centers in Iran, unquote, saying it is entitled and obligated to defend itself against external aggressive acts after the Israeli attacks on its soil. Fears of a wider Middle East war rose as Israel carried out airstrikes against Iran early today in what the Israeli military said was retaliation for months of attacks on Israel by Iran and its proxies. The strike came after Iran launched nearly 200 ballistic missiles on Israel earlier this month. Iranian state media said Israel had targeted Iranian military bases in 3 provinces, Tehran, Khuzestan and Ilam, but that there was no significant damage. Iran's foreign ministry has strongly condemned what it called the Zionist regime's aggressive actions against several military centers in Iran, saying it is entitled and obligated to defend itself against external aggressive acts after the Israeli attacks on its soil. Iran reported limited damage from Israel's airstrikes early Saturday amid fears of retaliation and an escalation in the Middle East conflict.
یه سریش پدافنده ایرانه یا ابوالفضل
Iranian air defenses in Tehran fired into the sky at what are believed to be Israeli drones, and air raid sirens wailed across the city. IRNA, the state-run news agency of Iran, said Iranian air defense systems shot down several targets, presumably drones. The Israeli Defense Force, or IDF, said none of its aircraft were lost in the strikes and all have returned to Israel. The Iranian army says 2 of its soldiers have been killed in Israeli strikes overnight. Israeli military has said that their planes returned safely after striking military targets in Iran. Israel's military added that these included missile manufacturing facilities used by Iran in its attacks on the state of Israel over the past year. In Washington, the Pentagon said the US forces were not involved in the Israeli attacks on Iran, but that Israel had briefed the Biden administration prior to the strikes. The United States has voiced support for Israel on the latest strikes on Iran, framing the actions as acts of self-defense, as Tel Aviv retaliated with strikes on military targets in Iran in response to the massive missile strike on the 1st of October on Saturday.
Are the Sri Lankans in Israel safe?
Ambassador of Sri Lanka to Israel, Nimal Bandara, advised Sri Lankans residing in Israel to minimize travel and to be extremely cautious at their workplaces. The ambassador notified Sri Lankans to stay alert for potential future drone and missile attacks, as observations indicate that the current situation may escalate in the near future. He added that due to the situation, airways for flights to Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria and Israel have been restricted. The Pohot tour faces another protest. On to some local news now. Galle District Returning Officer W.A. Dharmasiri said that the official result of the LPTA Pradeshia Sabha election can be released after 10 p.m. today. He added that vote counting process is currently underway. The voter turnout for the LPTA Pradeshia Sabha election was recorded at 63%. The vote casting commenced at 7 a.m. and concluded at 4 p.m. A total of 55,000 voters were expected to cast their votes across 48 centres, with 279 candidates from 8 political parties and 1 independent group vying for 28 seats of the LPTA Pradeshia Sabha. Meanwhile, election monitoring officers were seen engaging in election monitoring throughout the day.
Throughout the whole election process, we received only 2 complaints. Our observation is that the LPTA Pradeshia Sabha elections was peaceful on the day of the election at the entire time period concerned.
Galle District Returning Officer W.A. Dharmasiri says that the official results are expected to be released at about 10 p.m.
The voting process of the LPTA Pradeshia Sabha election concluded at 4:30 p.m. today. From the number of eligible voters, 63.7% had cast their votes today. The vote counting process commenced at 4:30 p.m. The results will be sent on a divisional basis to the district secretariat. Accordingly, the divisional secretariat will take steps to collect all the results from all divisions and announce the final result. We expect to announce the official result after 10 p.m. but before midnight.
Why is the LPTA Pradeshia Sabha election of this much significance? Why was only the LPTA Pradeshia Sabha election held separately at a time where no other Pradeshia Sabha elections are being held? The LPTA Pradeshia Sabha election was not held on the 10th of February 2018 when the election for all other local government institutions was held. Here's why. The nomination paper submitted by the Democratic United National Front, or DUNF, was rejected, and the party's secretary had filed a fundamental rights petition in the Supreme Court challenging this rejection. The final decision concerning this petition was announced in 2019, and accordingly, the Supreme Court ordered the National Election Commission to accept the nominations paper of the Democratic United National Front and conduct the long-delayed elections for the LPTA Pradeshia Sabha. The election was conducted a year and a half later. Due to this, although the tenure of all other local government institutions came to an end in 2023, the LPTA Pradeshia Sabha continued to operate. While the tenure of the LPTA Pradeshia Sabha was set to conclude in early 2023, the term was extended to the 4th of November 2024 through a Gazette notification. However, due to the budget being defeated twice, the Sri Lanka Potujana Perumuna lost its authority over the Pradeshia Sabha. It is according to this series of events that the National Election Commission was vested with the power to call for nominations for the LPTA Pradeshia Sabha election on the 4th of May 2024. Minister of Public Security Vijitha Herath stressed that there is no need to instill any fear over Sri Lanka's national security. The minister expressed these views following a program held in Kiribati.
The situation is stable. There is no reason for fear or doubt. We received a message indicating that foreign tourists might face some danger. Since we received that message, we have reinforced all security measures vigorously. Therefore, there should be no cause for concern now. I urge people not to get caught up in rumors or various propaganda. I ask the public to understand that the security situation in the country is very robust and we have created an environment where tourists can freely engage in their activities.
සංචාරක කටයුතු කරන්න පුළුවන් තත්ත්වයක් අපි දැන් ඇති කරලා තියෙනවා.
Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the Ampara district, S. Samudrajiva, assured the safety of all tourists in Arugambe. A program was conducted today to raise awareness of safety measures within the tourist sector in Arugambe, led by Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the Ampara district, S. Samudrajiva. The event brought together hotel owners, industry stakeholders and local police officials, fostering collaboration for the protection of visitors.
It is true that we received a specific message. However, as soon as we received it, we investigated the matter thoroughly. We did not allow any unfortunate incidents to occur. The IGP, the Minister in charge and the Ministry Secretary have implemented several security measures. Officers from the police, STF, Army, Navy and Air Force have come together as a team to address this situation. The police will provide their maximum support. Rest assured, we will not operate inefficiently. Tourists can visit Sri Lanka and enjoy their time without any obstruction.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Sri Lanka Decides.
President Anura Kumara Dissanayake announced that he will negotiate with the International Monetary Fund to prepare the upcoming budget. Now, he made this statement during a public rally in Ratnapura today.
හදවතේ මුල්ම තැන ඉන්න ආදරණීය ජනාධිපති සහෝදරයා අනුර කුමාර දිසානායක සහෝදරයාටයි විජයග්‍රහණයේ ජනරැලිය.
The public rally took place this afternoon at the Kahavatta Public Stadium with the participation of general election candidates from the National People's Power.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ජාතික ජනබලවේගය ඒ කියන්නේ මාලිමාවෙන් පුරවන්න ඕන මේ සැරේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව. ගත වෙන දිනයක් පාසා
This time we should fill the parliament with representatives from the National People's Power. We need to earn the people's trust more every passing day. I assure you that we will uphold the responsibility of strengthening the trust you have placed in us, without allowing it to falter. If you want a parliament worse than what we saw in 2020, stick with the old group. If you want to witness the best parliament Sri Lanka has ever had, it should be filled with National People's Power representation. November 14th is the day for a Shramadana campaign. On that day, the only choice is the compass. Some say an opposition is needed, and we agree. But our focus must be on building a strong government. Let's come together to build the strongest government Sri Lanka has ever seen on the 14th of November. They claim that if a National People's Power government came into power, the dollar rate would soar to 400 rupees. However, we've managed to keep it under 300 rupees. They also warn that international organizations, including the IMF, would abandon us. Yet, even now, a team including an economic advisor, finance ministry officials is in the United States discussing an appropriate budget proposal with the IMF. They said we'd fail, that gas cylinders would explode and that fuel queues would return. But we've worked hard to stabilize the country back to normal without letting any of that happen. They predicted a massive economic disaster, but we've managed to keep the country stable and on track. From October, every pensioner will receive an additional 3,000 rupees. And the upcoming budget includes plans to raise public servants' salaries. We'll also introduce allowances for school children and increase other subsidies. But we are not stopping there. We are committed to a major transformation in the education sector with new reforms. Our opponents are at a loss for words and only hope that we'll fail within 3 to 6 months. Remember, the National People's Power will not stop this journey until we rebuild the country. We won't turn back, and all programs are already in place to make this vision a reality.
මතක තියාගන්න ජාතික ජනබලවේගයේ මේ ගමන අත්හරින්නේ මේ රට හදලා මිසක ආපහු වැරෙන්නේ නැති බව මම ඔයගලන්ට සාතික කරනවා. හදලා මිසක ආපහු වැරෙන්නේ නැහැ. වැඩපිළිවෙල සියල්ල සකස් කරලා තිබෙනවා.
The Department of Posts said that the distribution of postal voting packages containing ballot papers will commence in the Colombo and Vanni districts today. The National Election Commission said the distribution of these packages had been suspended due to legal proceedings but resumed yesterday, issuing the packages to district returning officers. Election Commissioner General Samanshri Ratnayaka said that postal voters in the Colombo and Vanni districts will have the opportunity to cast their votes on the 30th of October, 1st of November and the 4th of November. Meanwhile, the official notices for the general election will be distributed across the country starting tomorrow. Meanwhile, leader of the Samagi Janabalawege, Sajid Premadasa, said that the most competent team capable of overcoming the current challenges facing the nation is found within the Samagi Janabalawege. Sajid Premadasa expressed these views during a public meeting in Maharagama today.
රජය අපොහොසත් වෙලා තිබෙනවා බදු සූත්‍රය වෙනස් කරන්නට බදු බර අඩු කරන්නට IMF.
The government has failed. We need to reform the tax system and alleviate the tax burden. Securing an agreement with the IMF is essential. Before we came forward to contest the presidential election, we had already engaged in numerous discussions with the IMF. We demonstrated our commitment to changing the tax system with the people's blessings within the IMF framework. The IMF had agreed. At this juncture, due to various issues and weak governance, our country is experiencing rising prices and the promises made are not being realized. There is no effective dialogue to reducing the tax burden. The nation faces significant economic, social, political and national security challenges, and the most capable team to tackle all these issues resides within the Samagi Janabalawege. Leading this to victory is the responsibility of each and every one of you.
The United Democratic Voice held a conference chaired by Ranjan Ramanayaka today. The United Democratic Voice held the conference at the Sugatadasa Indoor Stadium in Colombo.
Ranjan Ramanayaka!
අපි ඇයි අර හොරු ඉන්න ඒ පක්ෂ වලට ගිහිල්ලා මුක්කු ගහන්නේ?
Why would we support parties that include crooks? Instead, we can form a new and pure party, the United Democratic Voice. We all know the reason I was behind bars. I was in Nagunukala Palace, sharing a cell with Julampiti Amare. Their stance was that he must be eliminated within their territory. Our people must at least enter parliament to either be imprisoned or to raise a voice for you. Political parties in Sri Lanka are so afraid that they continue to file petitions in the Supreme Court in an attempt to stop us. We have become a challenge to those crooks. Trust me, Ranjan Ramanayaka will never engage in politics that goes against you.
Ranjan Ramanayaka කවදාවත් තමුන්නාසලට විරුද්ධ දේශපාලනයක් කරන්නේ.
Several Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna representatives faced protests from party supporters during a public rally in Pudaluya, Nuwara Eliya.
The public meeting was led by national organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Namal Rajapaksa. A group including C.B. Ratnayaka faced protests by the party supporters who were present.
මම කිසි දවසක මහින්ද මහත්තයා අතහැරලා ගියේ නෑ. පක්ෂයේ මුදලට වික්කේ නෑ. අදත් මුදලට විකිනනවා කොත්මලේ ආසනේ. ඒක අහගන්න ඕනේ. කොත්මලේ පුරවරයට අසාධාරණයක් කරලා නෑ. ඔබ රැක ගන්නයි මම ආවේ. විරස්සක වීම කැලෑපත්තර ගහන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි. යටි උගුල්ලා දුන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි. නමුත් අපි එකට එකතු වෙලා ගියොත් එම නායකයෙක් ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි.
ගොඩබේ රාජපක්ෂ ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ ආණ්ඩුවට සමහර උපදේශකවරු ගිහිල්ලා පොහොර ටිකටත් කෙලියා.
ඉතින් බොහෝම තීන්දුව තමයි අපිට හැදෙන්න හිටියේ. අපි උත්සාහ කර ආර්ථික යම්තාක් දුරට ගොඩ දාගන්න. අපි ඉන්න එඩිතරම ඉන්න ඕනේ. නෑ ආයෙ දාගන්න නෑ. සර් හොරුලා දාගන්න එපා. හරි එතනින් නවත්තන්න. සර් රන්දුම් කරලා දාගන්න එපා. අලුත් පිරිසකට තැන දෙන්න අපේ පක්ෂය අත කටයුතු කරලා තියෙනවා.
18 days remain for the general election. Here are views expressed in the political arena.
Before the ballot.
The NPP had only 42% of the votes in the last presidential election. 58% of the votes were not cast for them. We got 32%. There is no gas in the gas cylinder. Without Ranil Wickremesinghe, the gas cylinder is empty. Not even UNPers and the supporters of the UNP will vote for the gas cylinder because Ranil Wickremesinghe is not there. We believe that our platform is the only one that can unite voters under the leadership of Sajith Premadasa.
Before the ballot.
Many people who voted for SJB, UNP, SLFP, Podujana Eksat Peramuna and the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress are now gathering around us. So we believe that the National People's Power will secure a remarkable victory in this election.
Before the ballot.
They attempted to hold elections because it became evident that running a government is not as easy as bluffing. This is why the election was called well ahead of the scheduled date.
කලබලයට කොරහේ අත දාගන්නත් බැරි වුණා වගේ සිද්ධියක් සුළුතර ආණ්ඩුවකින් හරි NPP රජයට.
Even with a minority government, the NPP and the JVP should be given the opportunity to fulfill the promises they made to the people. They previously urged voters to support them, and now that they have received those votes, it's time for them to fulfill all the promises made.
දැන් අපි කියන්නේ කරලත් පෙන්නන්න කියලා කරලා බලන්න කියලා.
Before the ballot.
That is the agenda of coming into power by collapsing the country. The Sarvajana Balaya is contesting now to create a confident opposition that the country needs.
Before the ballot.
We aim to build a country free from corruption and waste. If our children can say that there was an election in 2024 and that their parents chased away the thieves and protected the nation, ultimately saving it from massive destruction, that will be our true happiness. We are fortunate to have been able to enjoy that happiness in the first election.
Before the ballot.
When one three-wheeler owner placed a sticker that reads Apit Mali Bavata, the entire three-wheeler park followed it. This is not a reflection of realistic election results, but rather a victory influenced by a pattern of trends. That's why I assert that this win is not genuine.
Before the ballot.
The country that was run by a cabinet of around 100 ministers is now controlled by a cabinet of just 3 ministers. Within the next 2 to 3 months, we will contribute in building the country. So do not have any fears. We are building this country. Place your trust in us.
Before the ballot.
People were promised a significant change, but they now see that many of these promises have been cast aside. With former presidents essentially returning to power, all the commitments have turned into empty words, leaving the hopes of the public shattered. This situation has become a blessing to the Samagi Jana Balawegaya led by Sajith Premadasa.
Before the ballot.
When one party comes into power, other parties often try to obstruct their program. Similarly, when those who have previously caused trouble taking the helm, other parties continue to obstruct their efforts. Can Sri Lanka truly move forward in this manner? We are building a Sri Lankan ideology.
Before the ballot.
Corruption, fraud and irregularities have turned Parliament into a place of corruption. Parliament is where public funds are managed. This election should be used to transform Parliament into a strong institution of knowledgeable and educated individuals that formulate and implement policies for the public.
Before the ballot.
You all keep saying that the parliament is not needed. What would the people say if it rained heavily? They would say that they hoped the parliament would be completely submerged. The hatred people have is not towards the building. You all dislike the people in it. There is no need to attack or set the place on fire. The best broomstick hailing from Tabuttegama swept out about 60 from the parliament. The parliament has been cleansed. What is your responsibility now? You need to elect the right people into the parliament.
Before the ballot.
News First with the people.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Welcome back to Primetime News. A luxury vehicle without a registration number has been taken into police custody from a house in Shalaba Road in Mirihana.
Police said that the vehicle was found at the residence belonging to Lohan Ratwate's wife. The vehicle taken into police custody is a white Lexus SUV. When Newsfirst inquired whether this was an unregistered vehicle, police said that they could not provide any comments on the matter.
Over the past few days, Newsfirst has unraveled the tangled web of factors that have plunged our nation, Sri Lanka, into chaos. But let's dig deeper.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
There are numerous reasons behind Sri Lanka's economic crisis. Corruption, fraud and inefficiency stand out as the main culprits. Do you remember the garlic scam? Let's rewind. On the 7th of June 2021, the cabinet gave the green light for Lanka Satosa to release food supplies sitting idle at the port. The Trade Minister and the Ports Minister presented this proposal, claiming it would ensure that essential food items previously held back by customs would finally reach the people. So 56,000 kilograms of garlic were released from the Colombo port. But hold on. Here's where the plot thickens. A critical question emerged. Was this stock genuinely the one seized by the customs? The answer came from the importer himself, who filed a complaint at the Criminal Investigation Department. He said that this was not the confiscated stock. Instead, on the 14th of July 2021 at 12:24 p.m., he had brought that very stock to the port only to face delays because of foreign exchange issues. Meanwhile, the containers were whisked away from the port. Was releasing these goods without notifying the actual importer nothing short of theft? And it doesn't stop there. Another burning question arises. Were these goods approved for subsidized prices truly meant for the public? On the 9th of September 2021, that very stock vanished from the Lanka Satosa warehouse in Valisara, only to turn up in another businessman's possession, priced at 135 rupees per kilogram. No legal paperwork accompanied this transfer, just a scribbled note in a CR book. Meanwhile, the market price had soared to 320 rupees per kilogram. This trader was looking at a potential profit of 185 rupees per kilogram, totaling a staggering 10,360,000 rupees within hours of the fraudulent deal. Isn't it clear? This stock was stolen with zero costs involved. Then came the Trade Ministry's statement, released mere hours after the fraud was uncovered, claiming that Lanka Satosa officials were innocent. Several officials were suspended and arrests followed. But what happened next? Who are the masterminds behind this theft, robbing the people of much-needed subsidized garlic? These questions linger unanswered. As thousands of such thefts occur, Has our country truly escaped bankruptcy? This is just one story among many. We must investigate the hidden scams and corruption lurking in the shadows, and it is time to reclaim the ill-gotten wealth amassed through these deceitful schemes.
The power of the people.
Sri Lanka are taking on the West Indies in the third ODI at the Pallekele International Cricket Stadium. Winning the toss, the West Indies decided to bowl first. Play resumed after rain interruption and play was reduced to 23 overs each. Sri Lanka managed to score 156 runs at 23 overs for the loss of 3 wickets. Well, that's a wrap of Prime Time News for tonight. For the Newsfirst team, I am Theruni Karunaratne. Thank you for watching. Take care. Have a good night.